Fighting games are one of the oldest competitive games by nature, but recently they just have not been doing well, and today I kind of want to break down and elaborate on why that is and how we can fix that. However, before I even get into how we can fix it, I need to address what's on the developer side in terms of marketing. The marketing for fighting games, aside from the trailers, have been really lackluster, poor, whatever the synonym you want to use for the word bad, because there is none. Once you buy a fighting game and you've initially purchased the $60 game, now you have to purchase $30 worth of DLC. And after you purchase $30 worth of DLC for 1 year, you purchase another $30 worth of DLC. And this may look like, alright, that's the standard fighting game things, but that from a marketing standpoint is awful. It is so difficult to convince a person 2 years later to drop $60 on the game base and to drop another $60 for it just to get characters that they may want that should already initially be given to them. Alright, so let's address the pricing. I don't really have a problem with fighting games being $60. $60 isn't that crazy of a price to ask people to pay for, especially when you're trying to sell a AAA game from a company like Bandai Namco or Capcom. However, these season passes need to get addressed. This is not okay. I know you don't want to hear it. I know like people don't want to, go the battle royale route, but it needs to be said. There just needs to be a battle pass, all right? There is little to no reason, no incentive for you to play a lot of fighting games besides wanting to get better or wanting to rank up, right? And you gotta look at these games that are doing well in the climate right now. They have a battle pass on top of having ranked modes, so people can rank up if they want to, and everything that you do leads back to progression towards something. I don't want to buy a $20 costume for Ryu or a $10 costume for Chun-Li. Let me buy a $10 battle pass and get like 2 or 3 costumes for Ryu and Chun-Li. Nobody will care then. And every time you can do a new churro for a battle pass like Apex does and just get a whole bunch of revenue for your game, people talking about it. This needs to be a first step in a long line of many to make fighting games get back on track. Now let's talk these characters. I believe that characters should be free, and if you want them, you should just work towards them, but I think that's a little too progressive for fighting games. So if you really want these characters to still be paid for, put them in the battle pass. Make them like the final incentive, or make it so that when you buy the battle pass, you get the first character in the season for free. And I know you're gonna say, well, that'll cause discrepancies off of people wanting to get characters early, but I'm not saying that, you get a character if you finish a battle pass. I'm talking about once you buy the battle pass, you get the first character unlocked that you can play for the rest of the season. Little stuff like that. And obviously, characters aren't going to be locked to seasons to a point that if you didn't play there in February, you don't get to play Ryu anymore. He's just locked forever. That wouldn't make any sense. Before I even continue this video, let's just get over this right now. On the developer side, there needs to stop being this idea that fighting games are too hard, that need to be dumbed down. Fighting games are not inherently hard. I'll say it again for the people in the back. Fighting games are not inherently hard. The difficult part about fighting games are dealing with other people. And just like every other game, it is the same thing. You will always have trouble dealing with other people that are on a higher level than you. And naturally, because of how grassroots fighting games are, the gap between a beginner and a person that knows what they're doing but still hasn't played a lot is very high. That's just the way fighting games are. But this does not inherently mean that fighting games are that hard to learn or to play. I don't think they're that hard to learn, right? But there's this misconception that fighting games are really difficult, and because everybody keeps complaining about how difficult they are, it causes developers to want to dumb down the game. But instead of them dumbing it down in a way that makes sense, they do it in a way that often makes fighting games more harder to approach. Like, let me give you an example. V-Trigger, no matter what way you look at it, is a comeback factor, right? It's a factor that lets newcomers be able to press 2 buttons, get an ability, and then become better along the matchup, right? Alright. Sparking in Dragon Ball FighterZ is also a comeback mechanic. It is a mechanic so that you can come back during the very end of a match, do some crazy things, and do whatever, right? Look at all these mechanics that developers have put into the game to make a newcomer become less upset about losing. When have you seen a newcomer use these mechanics and actually beat a person because of the mechanics? And I'm talking somebody that's entirely new to fighting games. I'm not talking a person that plays every day that can beat a pro every like 5 matches. I'm talking about a person that's never heard about fighters, never heard about a fighting game, just picks up Street Fighter 5 and puts on V-Trigger. In fact, this mechanic widens the gap more. The idea of these mechanics being used in order to facilitate some kind of growth in a lower level player is dumb, and it will never be used like that. Now, I understand the idea of taking out a lot of older things so that your games don't become more bloated. That is completely understandable. For example, I don't think unblockables in the year 2021, that just doesn't need to be a thing. All right, get out of here. That's not the kind of fighting games we want to see. That's not what people want to see now. I don't think, at least. If you do, then put a 1 in the comments or something. But that needs to be addressed. Stop dumbing down these games and their moves and their mechanics so that other people could feel good about winning one set against a line of 10. It's not how you get better at these games. It's not what's fun about these games. In the end of the day, like every other game that is competitive and has multiplayer in it, it just takes time. No matter what game you play, from fighting games to FPSs, it just takes time for you to understand what you're doing and to just get better. That is what it takes, and nothing can bridge that gap. In fact, I think it actually becomes a lot easier in fighting games to default a lot of the times because your combos are always going to be the same thing. In fact, it makes fighting games a lot easier than other games, but people don't want to really hear that. So, also, we need to see some more content. I know this has been addressed like multiple times, and it's going trending. People saying, man, fighting games are not fun for newcomers because there's less content. But people will say that and then not actually like talk about it, right? I'm not talking like putting in a story mode at the beginning of launch or putting in, that's just not enough, all right? I need to see more content progressively. Why is it that no matter how long into a fighting game's life cycle, the most I'll ever see done change like the fundamental core of the game is either like an addition to a story or them adding more ranked modes or not more ranked modes, but more, what are they called? Ranked titles, like adding like super diamond. Like, I don't want to, that's not additions. I want to see more game modes. Like, where are my multiplayer game modes? You telling me it wouldn't be sick for even now, so late into the game, and Street Fighter 5 tried it with Tournament Edition, and they tried to do that, but it didn't work out, so, But it would be so cool this late in the game to see, like, Guilty Gear 6 months from now when Strive comes out, and see Strive have, like, an online multiplayer mode. Maybe you could just go online and play, like, team battles with people, so that the first opponent has to win their first match, and then you win the second match, and maybe you'll find some friends online. Why do we have to use extra services in order to have fun in fighting games? Like, that needs to stop being the case, and people need to stop defending these games for them. And the year is 2021. These games have not improved, have not moved from this basic standard in over like 20 years now. That's crazy. That needs to change now. And also, the games that have done it has had pretty much success with it. The games that have done it has had pretty good success with it, such as fighters having like the boss events where they have to fight the boss characters. That's always pretty good, and people make a mill off of those YouTube videos itself. Like, people like that kind of stuff. Put more of that in the game. Also, this does not even need to be said, but they need to have good netcode. Like, come on now. I know that 2020, 2019 was all the year of the netcode, and we were just fighting for that for a while. But like, it needs to be said now. They just need to have good netcode. I'm not even passionate about this because it's sad that I have to sit down here and say, hey, these games need to be playable online for them to actually be playable online. So, that's a little sad. But yeah, it needs to be a thing. And lastly, it is the community. Man, some of you people really talk a lot. You guys really waste your breath talking about things you don't like. You guys are one of the biggest problems in trying to get people to enjoy fighting games, because they see you guys, they look in the mirror, right? Like they're window shopping. Okay, what game do I play? Look at Valorant. All these pros are just joking online. They're having a good time. You look at their clips, they're getting happy. Then you go and look at fighting games. You look through the window there. You go like, all right, what's going on here? people crying about a new game coming out. It's every time. And it's not just Guilty Gear. It's been Street Fighter. It is every game. I think the only one that didn't really have that problem is like Tekken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even think I used to. I wasn't even aware of like, you know, the game back then, right? But nah, crying every time. Oh, Street Fighter 5 isn't real Street Fighter. Guilty Gear Strive isn't real Guilty Gear. Tekken 7 isn't real Tekken. The only time it actually worked was with Marvel because that game actually looked ugly. But to stop doing that. That is the weirdest shit to ever do. Like, I have no problem with you sitting here and saying, alright, I don't like how this is about the game, right? But why are you actively trying to get other people to not play a game that they want to play? Like, why you're hurting your game? Think about it like this. Instead of you going online and saying, Guilty Gear Strive is not Guilty Gear, play Exard instead. Play Rev 2, right? Instead of you doing that, what you could do is say, hey, Guilty Gear is a good looking game. Strive looks pretty good. Have the Strive players play that game, and then maybe, you know, a couple months later they'll go like, alright, I'm sick of Strive. Maybe I'll try some Rev 2. And now, look at that. But no. That's too smart for you people. Instead, you're gonna cry online about a game not being good, although you won't play it, and then meme it. So that nobody can have fun. Because if you're not having fun, then nobody can have fun, huh? You're the problem. You people that won't let these games grow, become what they want to be, you guys are the problem. And obviously, I'm not talking about if you have discrepancies with newer games, especially in a beta, in which, like I said, don't want to get into it too deep here, right? But like, obviously, every game has problems. And if you want to voice those problems, go ahead. But if you're not even going to play a game and then talk about how the game is bad, and talk about how you should play some other game that's in the same series, do you realize how counterproductive you're being towards the growth of your own game? Think for a second. Just think. Alright. In the year 2021, it is crazy that we're here already. Fighting games are doing better. Believe it or not. There is some serious hope for fighting games. Guilty Gear Strive is coming out, man. That game looks good, and that's all that really matters. It is now the time for fighting games to be in a wider market besides what they've been right now. And you should embrace that. Fighting games don't make a lot of money, and it's not that hard to say that and to, you know, be confident about it, because have you seen the payouts off of the 8 events that Valorant has had so far compared to the damn near 1,000 events that Street Fighter 5 has had for the past 5 years? And Street Fighter 5 is one of the most paid esports fighting games. So that goes to show something. But yeah, nah, this needs to change, and it needs to be talked about, because fighting games are too much fun. I've had so many friends that used to be like me and didn't like fighting games, and they played one fighting game, not thought about it, just played it. They even played the Guilty Gear Strive beta, like the first one that came out in February, and we're like, nah, this is heat. I like fighting games, but and then they go on to play more fighting games, and it's only always one, because there's nothing like it in the genre of gaming, you know. So many games have different FPS roots tied to it, right? But there are very few fighting games that play like other games. So once you get the taste of one fighting game, it makes you want to play another one and another one, like kind of like a crack addict, but you know, for fighting games. So yeah, like I said, in all my videos, I just want to convince at least 1 or 2 people to try something new. So try a new fighting game. Strive is coming out. It looks really good, and it's gonna have a good player population. My only hope for it is that it has crossplay.